Hi guys, and welcome to the third and probably final dev diary for the Cold War mod. Now in this dev diary I'm going to do two things. First of all, I'm going to talk about some changes that have been introduced to the mod for existing features that I've already talked about before. And I'm going to introduce one more big feature of the mod. Now this feature ties into some other mechanics. So some things may seem similar, but some of the aspects of this feature will really change the way you play the game and how you can advance your position in the game without outright going to war. Let's begin. But before I begin, I do want to say a couple of things. First of all, nothing you see here is final and things might change before release. Another thing, the AI behavior that you're going to see in this video is not a representation of how it's going to be in the final product, in the final version of the mod that will be released. And that is because I've instructed the AI to always vote yes on the Security Council so that I can show you some of these features. And that means that all the resolutions that I'm going to be doing will pass. Now, this is obviously not how it's going to be in the final version of the mod, and it's important that you understand and remember that as I go through this video, since the behavior of the AI in this video is not going to make much sense. It only behaves that way to allow me to show you some features. Okay. Alright, so let's begin. The first thing that, the first major change that I want to talk about is the introduction of another communist ideology, and that is the communist revisionist ideology. Now, the addition of this ideology was important, first of all, to represent properly the schism, the split of the Communist Party of China from the Soviet communist model, and that will allow China to assert its own position, well, Communist China to assert its own position and to have its own sphere of influence. It will also be heavily used in the Soviet power struggle right after Stalin's death, since we did have two of these forces inside the Soviet Communist Party. Another change that I want to talk about is about the Security Council. And if you remember, in a previous dev diary, I talked about how you can solicit countries to support you on the Security Council. And what happened is that you got their support, and that was that. The next resolution that was voted on, they would vote your way. Now, obviously, the problem with that is that it's quite possible that the next resolution to come up on the Security Council will not be a resolution that you're interested in voting on. So I've introduced a change. Let's see it in action. So I'm going to solicit Afghanistan to support me on the Security Council. Just gonna speed things up so they accept. And as you can see now, the Afghanistan flag has a small Chinese flag, showing that they will support me on the Security Council. But right below that, I have this toggle, which basically tells Afghanistan if they should use this favor that I'm asking of them right now or not. Okay, so this allows you a much greater control of when you want to use their vote to support you. So these are the two main changes that I wanted to talk about, and they really do make a difference in the game, and it was important for me to introduce these changes before the mod is released. And now we'll go ahead and take a look at the new feature, a feature that my Patreons are already aware of. And this is a great opportunity to thank you guys again for supporting my work. Okay, so now let's talk about the main topic of this dev diary. And these are the state actions. So when you click on a state in the game, you have this panel over here with all of these buttons. And these allow you to do certain interactions with states in the game. So I will now go over most of these. There is one button, which is the button right here in the end, that I actually don't want to talk about. And I want you guys to wait and see what it does when the mod is released. But I will talk about all the other ones. Okay, so the first button allows me to either remove a claim or add a claim to a state, right? So for example, if I click here in Tonkin, I can claim the state, and by claiming the state, I can do further interactions with it. For example, here in Hong Kong, since I already have a claim on the state, these other buttons are now available to me. So what do these do? First of all, request recognition. Now this button allows you to ask the UN to recognize your claim on a state and turn it into a recognized territory. In vanilla game terms, it means turning the state from a claimed state to a core state. And once you click this button, what happens is that a Security Council resolution will pop up, and the members will vote to either recognize the state as your recognized territory or not. So let's go ahead and do this now. I'm going to click this button. And now we have the resolution initiator, which is me. We have the target, which is the United Kingdom, and we have the contested territory, which in this case is Hong Kong. So I'm gonna let this resolution go. Now, as I mentioned before, all countries will vote in my favor on this resolution, since this is how I instructed the AI for the purpose of this video. This is not how it will work in the final version of the mod. Okay, so now that the resolution has been adopted, if I click here on Hong Kong, it is now a recognized state of China. Excellent. So once it is a recognized state, the next thing that I can do is that I can ask the Security Council to transfer the sovereignty of Hong Kong from the United Kingdom to China. Now, obviously, this will require the United Kingdom to agree to this. And let me tell you right now, chances are that in most cases they will not agree, and we'll see what happens then. So let's go ahead with this resolution. And here it is in the game. So transfer core territory. If the resolution is adopted, Hong Kong will be handed to China and British cores and claims will be removed. Now, as I mentioned again, this will require the United Kingdom to accept and to transfer the state. So let's go ahead and let this resolution pass. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to switch tag to the United Kingdom so that you can see how things look for the United Kingdom once this resolution is adopted. Okay, so as you can see here, I get a diplomatic request from the United Nations asking me to transfer territory. So the Security Council is demanding we transfer Hong Kong to China. If we refuse, the Security Council might impose mild military sanctions on us. Now, in this case, I'm going to accept and transfer Hong Kong to China. The last button will allow you to renounce recognition, and it has a very similar mechanic. So what you can do, you click this button and there's a vote on the Security Council to remove a state as recognized territory from a country. The next function that I want to talk about are the border skirmishes. Using this button, what you can do is that you can engage enemy forces or the forces of another country without necessarily declaring war on them. Now, you will not gain any territory, but it will allow you to get an estimate of how strong they are, and in some cases will allow you to weaken the enemy forces before maybe you are planning to go to full scale war with them. So let's give this a try. So let's say that I want to see how well equipped the British forces in Hong Kong are. So I'm going to click this button, and as you can see here, I have this border conflict and our troops are now engaged without being officially at war. You can do this with countries that you have a truce with, and you can do this with countries that you have done aggression pacts with. And now let's move on to the last function of the state buttons, the ability to request monopolies on certain states. This mechanic is similar to the monopolies that the United States and the United Kingdom have in Mexico in the vanilla game. And this function lets you have these monopolies and resource extractions in a very dynamic way. So you don't need focuses and you don't need events or anything like that. You can just request these this way. Now, whether the country will grant you the monopoly or not will depend on a lot of things. If you're at war, obviously not. If your relations are very low, they will also not grant it. In most cases, if you have high relations with them and if you're trading with them, they will most probably grant you the monopoly. Also, please note that you can only request monopolies from non-aligned countries. You cannot request these monopolies from democratic countries or communist countries. And this is one reason why the major players in the world would want to have neutral countries that will not join their faction but will provide them with resources. So let's go ahead. I'm going to request Iran to give me a monopoly on the oil in Khuzestan. And what happens here is that now Iran gets a decision to either grant me the monopoly or not. So as you can see here, Iran gets this decision here. It will also show you what type of resources the Chinese are requesting. And if you click this icon, it will grant them the monopoly. Now, monopolies are granted for 1 year, and after that 1 year, they have to manually be requested again to continue. And if you click on the state, you will see the flag of the country that has the extraction rights for resources on this state. Now you may ask, why would a country willingly would give up its resources to another country? What do they have to gain from it? So if you see here, there's quite a lot to gain for giving up resources. So first of all, you get your consumer goods demand reduced. And when the contract, when the monopoly is expired, there's a chance that the state will either receive another building slot, or it will gain a civilian country, or it will gain some manpower, which is a reflection of maybe the Chinese workers staying, getting citizenship in the state, and basically get added to your manpower pool. So both the country that gets the resources and the country that is giving the resources have something to gain, but you can always revoke the monopoly that you gave to a country in this state. That will obviously upset them and will damage your relations, but once this is done, the resources are no longer removed and you can use them for your own country. Okay, so we're not finished yet. There are 2 more buttons that I want to show you. Now these buttons only show up when you click on your own state, a state that you own. And the first one will allow you to develop a state. Now what development does, it will improve the province and will add a building slot to that state, sorry, not province. It will add a building slot to the state, allowing you to build more buildings in the state. So once you click on this icon, you will see it in the special projects decision, and will show you that you are developing the state. Now developing a state costs civilian factories, and note that the cost for civilian factories will change depending on how developed the state is already. And now for the last state function. This button will allow you to move your capital to another state. And this is quite important if you're fighting a war and your capital is under threat and you don't want it to be taken by the enemy. And maybe you have other reasons to move your capital. Whatever the reason may be, you can move your capital to this state. All you need to do is to click this button. Now please note that the capital relocation is not immediate. Okay, you will have a decision that will run for 90 days while you move your capital, and at the end of this decision the capital will be moved to its new location. Okay guys, so that is it. Obviously a much smaller feature than the Security Council, but it does tie into the Security Council. I hope you guys are excited for this mod as much as I am. Now I'm reaching my limits on my ability to test this thing on my own, and that is why it's so critical that I release the mod already for you guys to play and to give me feedback and to see how things are working or maybe not working. And I don't have a release date yet. I do believe, and I certainly hope, that I will be able to release the mod before the end of the year, but no promises yet. Once I have a release date, I will obviously mention it and I will announce it, so all of you will know about it. I do want to make one thing clear. The mod is not going to be perfect on release, but with your help, hopefully we will make it the best Cold War mod for Hearts-of-Iron 4. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Hey guys, if you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe. It helps the channel grow. Check out these other videos on the Iron Workshop that you might enjoy as well. Please consider supporting the Iron Workshop on Patreon. This will allow the channel to grow and become even better. Thank you.